Ready, set, hut, hut.
As the hills of West Virginia resound with the sounds of Golden Blue football.
Almost heaven, West Virginia.
Now let's bring on the Mountaineers. Goes around about the 15 to 10 to 5. A touchdown, West Virginia. He did it.
He did it. Patrick White. Touchdown, Tavon Austin.
The Don Nehlen's Mountaineers enjoy walking in where angels fear to tread.
I think you think that these guys are going to fall over dead for you. Well, I got news for you. They're going to punch you right in the mouth. It's Mountaineer pride.
Nothing cheap, nothing dirty, but West Virginia football. West Virginia football.
We've no doubt tonight they shouldn't have played the old Golden Blue. Not this night.
They've done it. They've done it. A perfect season. And the Mountaineers, for the first time in history, undefeated and untied.
Don Nehlen and his Mountaineers, for the second time, have finished a regular season with an unblemished mark.
Ain't no stopping the Golden Blue.
It is a great night to be a Mountaineer wherever you may be.
What's going on, Mountaineer Nation? Welcome back into another live stream here on the Country Roads webcast, April 21st edition. And man, do we have a loaded show for you guys or what? As West Virginia basketball gets their guy. It happened. We talked about it last week, how huge it would be if West Virginia could pull it off and get Treysen Eaglestaff to commit. It happens. They land Treysen Eaglestaff. We're going to talk about him. Got plenty of basketball updates we're going to talk about. That's going to be the front portion of the show here, is talking a little bit about Treysen Eaglestaff again, because can't rave about him enough. And then we'll take a look at the other transfer portal prospects West Virginia's after. Think there's someone else we're on commitment watch for now as well. We'll talk a little bit about him. We've talked about him in a previous stream, but now we know that he's coming in on a visit, so we'll talk about him a little bit further. Got a couple official press releases on things that we've covered in the past that have now come out from the university. We'll read through those as well on the basketball side. And then on the football side, yet again, 2 commitments in one day for West Virginia. I took the weekend off from the live streams here with it being Easter weekend, but did put out a pre-recorded video a couple of days ago talking about West Virginia pulling it off early there in the weekend, picking up 2 commitments in one day on Saturday. Well, yet again on Sunday, they picked up 2 more commitments in one day. So West Virginia already doing a good job in the football transfer portal side as well. The back half of the show, we'll talk about the football portal updates, and we'll also take a look at the target list there on that side, because I think we got guys on commitment watch still yet for the football side of things as well, plus another name that we've added to our contact list for the Mountaineer football transfers are concerned. So heavy show here, loaded with both WVU basketball and WVU football topics, with a heavy influence there on the transfer portal, as that is the time, right? It's transfer portal season. It's ongoing for both sports. I believe the basketball transfer portal closes tomorrow. Football transfer portal closes later this week. Now, that doesn't mean you got to get all your signings in by then. That's just the last day players have to enter their name into the portal. You can continue to recruit guys that are in the portal here leading up through the spring. But that's what we got on the docket for this one. It'll be a jam-packed show, but we'll try and get to some of your all's comments throughout as well that are watching live. So if you got any of those, throw them in the chat. And you guys that are watching live on Facebook or Twitch, encourage you to come over to the Country Roads Webcast YouTube channel so you can get our pre-recorded videos and podcast episodes and get our football updates, in addition to these basketball live streams that we do here as we continue to try and cover the basketball transfer portal news, coaching staff news, and all that good stuff as well. But those of you that are here on YouTube, whether watching live or on the playback, you can help us out really easily just by hitting that thumbs up button. Help us out with that YouTube algorithm. That helps this video find more Mountaineer fans like yourself, and they can stay up to date on what's going on for both sports by hitting that subscribe button, getting those videos straight into their feed. So with no further ado, we'll dive in here. Hey, got a super chat though, right quick. Rodney Ross with the $5 super chat. Appreciate that, Rodney. Enjoy your webcast, brother. Keep the good news coming. Appreciate the kind words there, Rodney. And I believe, Rodney, I'm guessing you're the one that I met out in person a couple of days ago. That was pretty cool, man. I really glad that you introduced yourself. I always like when that happens and I get to meet some of you guys in person, which has happened a few times now. And that was really cool. So shout out to Rodney as well, coming in with the $5 super chat. Tosh Miller, channel member in here, says this basketball roster is building way faster than this time last year. Not only faster, Tosh, but better, I would say as well. This transfer portal class is shaping up to be really, really good, especially on paper compared to last year. I think it tops it easily. But when you add, what West Virginia's added thus far, it's hard to argue with the quality of this portal class. Appreciate you guys coming in with early comments. Like I said, I'll try and catch up on some other comments here later in the show. So if you guys got any, drop them in there. But we got to get to it, man. Y'all got to listen to me rave about Treysen Eaglestaff yet again, much like on the stream that we did towards the latter portion of last week, where I had my fingers crossed, hoping for his commitment, because I think, and I'll say it again, I think this is the third stream I've said it on, but it does bear mentioning, just so you guys know the quality of player that West Virginia basketball just landed. I think if you exclude Tucker DeVries from the conversation, because yes, he was highly rated, but West Virginia didn't have to recruit him. I think as far as going out and getting a guy out of the portal that can make an immediate impact, that's wanted by every team in the country, I think that Treysen Eaglestaff is the biggest transfer addition WVU basketball has landed in the portal era. And I don't think that that's a stretch to say that. I mean, this is a guy that put up 40 on Alabama last year when they were a top 10 team in the country. I believe that was the record for an unranked opponent versus a top 10 ranked opponent, the 40 points that he dropped there. Then he dropped 51 in their conference championship game, which I believe was a record for their conference as well. He can create his own shot. He can play 1 through 3. He played some point guard there at North Dakota. So we'll see where he ends up in the WVU lineup. But this addition cannot be stated enough how important and how impactful this is, that West Virginia is able to get what was one of the best names in the entire portal. And he decommits from South Carolina, commits to WVU a few days later, with that coming in late last night. Unfortunately, after I went to bed, had to work here this morning. So that's why I'm getting to this later today. But let's talk a little bit about Treysen Eaglestaff, and we'll talk these basketball updates here on the front half of the show. Then in the back half, we'll talk some football portal updates as well. So let's pull up here the tweet that broke it, at least the one that I saw, and that's Jeff Goodman. Treysen Eaglestaff committed to West Virginia, which his agent said there. 6'6", averaged nearly 19 points per game. But I thought what was interesting here about this announcement was we had heard initially that it was, WVU, Kansas, Kentucky that were really kind of the front runners. But seems like, as was kind of expected and we kind of worried about, that some other schools would come in and get into the mix here that had some money to throw around. Gonzaga and Washington being those, but BYU was the really scary one that you had to worry about with the money they've been throwing around this offseason. It seems like they tried to get involved here, but West Virginia holds them off, holds Gonzaga off, and holds Washington off to land Treysen Eaglestaff, who was wanted by every team in the country. West Virginia lands him. So for those of you guys that didn't hear me talk about him the first time, late last week, let's talk a little bit about his game yet again. Let's look up the numbers here, and I got some other tweets I'll reference, even one showing some of the highlights so you guys can see some of the highlights from that 51-point game he had against their rival school there. But 19 points per game puts him top 50 in the country there in scoring, 3 rebounds, 2 assists, and the 42% field goal percentage is what's really impressive when you're talking about someone that had such a high usage rate, a ball-dominant player like Eaglestaff was, to still be able to put up the amount of shots that he did every game and still have, 42% from the field. That's impressive there in and of itself. Great length, which is what we wanted, someone to pair with Honor Huff that has great length there in the backcourt. Eaglestaff brings you that at 6'6". He played point guard some there at North Dakota, like I said, but I think he could play the 1, he could play the 2, he could even play the 3 potentially at WVU. We'll see how it shakes out there. Overall, 36% from the 3-point line, 79% from the free throw line, the 2 assists to 2 turnovers. The turnover rate a little bit higher than what you'd like there, but I think that goes hand in hand with him being pretty much the only player that North Dakota had. So high usage rate, ball dominant player. I think those turnover numbers will drop when he's not having to be the focal point night in and night out. Is good on the defensive end, what you would like with that length, average over 1 steal per game, but the 19 points per game is just ridiculous. And he's absolutely, and not only is he good at scoring, but he's good at creating his own shot, which is a whole different ball game, right? Because he's someone that you can go to late in the shot clock, late in games when you need to score, clutch situations. You can put the ball in his hands, ISO him, and let him go to work because he can create his own shot off the dribble. He's not someone you necessarily have to run set plays for. He can make it happen on his own, which is huge. Those type of guys are rare in college basketball, and now West Virginia has one of those guys. So here is another tweet that talks about how impactful this addition is. And I really like this tweet, which is from Daniel Woods, because he says, soon to be WVU guards Honor Huff and Treysen Eaglestaff combined to make 215 3-pointers last season. WVU's entire team made 277 in 24 and 25. So you added the nation's leading 3-point shooter in Honor Huff, who made more threes than anyone in college basketball, and one of the most impactful scorers, one of the most elite scorers in college basketball to go along with it. Ross Hodge is pairing elite defense with big-time shooting, and the Big 12 should take note. And I think Mountaineer Nation should take note, because what did we hear when Coach Hodge was brought on? Man, yeah, his defense is impressive. His defense is great, but I'm worried about his offense. Are we going to be able to get offensive players to want to come play in this system? Well, here's your answer right here. How about the nation's best 3-point shooter and one of the best scorers in all of college basketball as well? 2 of the best guards in the portal. West Virginia lands him. So yes, Ross Hodge can recruit. Yes, offensive players want to play, even though he is known as a defensive coach. And also this shows that his offense is probably going to be a little bit more explosive now that he's at the power conference level and has resources to go out and get players like Honor Huff and Treysen Eaglestaff. So not only are you getting the elite defense, but you're adding offensive players there that are going to be super impactful as well. So, and I think yet again, we have to shout out Phil Forte, who we'll talk about again later in the show, as his hire has now been officially announced, but we've been talking about it for almost a month here on the Country Roads webcast. And one of the things that I first told you guys about Phil Forte is I think he's a really good recruiter. And how about him picking up 2 guards that he was the lead recruiter on here in the portal, Honor Huff and Treysen Eaglestaff? Hell of a job by Phil Forte, hell of a job by Ross Hodge and company. But let's take a look here at some of the plays from that big game that Treysen Eaglestaff had against South Dakota State there in the tournament in the Summit League, where he went off for 50 plus points there. Here are some of the plays here. We'll highlight a few of them here in this tweet that was shared by Ethan Bach. Mute that so we don't get copyright here. But just take a look. This is what I'm talking about with his ability to create his own shot. That's pretty much all you're going to see throughout this highlight is just him off the dribble, step back threes there on the first couple. He has a really nice mid-range game there. Look at this shot. I mean, the defender is all over him on that turnaround fadeaway jumper from the mid-range and easily makes it. There's a Euro step in between 2 defenders to finish at the rim. So I like this highlight package as well. It's brief. It's all from one game, but in this highlight package, you see the deep shots, you see the pull-ups there from mid-range, and you see his ability to attack the rim and score there as well as he did on that Euro step finish in between 2 people. So, you get to kind of see a little bit of the aspect of his game and why he's such an elite scorer here in this highlight package. Let's get one more look at that turnaround fadeaway because, man, that's pretty. But super impressive. Treysen Eaglestaff, can't say enough good things about him and his game. So with that being said, let's pull up a little bit more info here about his game as we like to share these transfer 101s that Keenan Cummings been putting out on the Rivals site. He's done a great job talking about this, but here was what he had to say about Treysen Eaglestaff. 6'6", 190 pound, was one of the top available scorers in the transfer market after finishing 48th nationally in points per game this past season with nearly 19. That included a 40-point effort against Alabama, where he was 50% from the 3-point line there, or from the field there at 15 of 30, and 8 of 18 from threes in 40 minutes. Also had a 51-point effort, which we just saw some highlights from there, where he was better than 50% from the floor there at 15 of 28. Eaglestaff initially committed to South Carolina over a long list of programs, including Kentucky, Iowa, Kansas, and many others, before electing to back off that choice and, of course, commit to the Mountaineers. He spent 3 seasons there with North Dakota, where he appeared in 87 games, starting 75 of those, including every game his final 2 years. Improved his numbers every year that he was there. Of course, super productive this last season. He has 1 year of eligibility remaining, the 7th transfer edition for WVU, which we'll pull up our transfer portal tracker and talk about that here momentarily. But let's talk about how he fits the program. Eaglestaff is simply a scorer. He had a usage rate of 26.9% from North Dakota last season. That's what I'm talking about with the high usage rate there. A long athletic guard that can put the ball in the basket from all 3 levels of the floor. He can score off the bounce to the rim and can use his size and length to finish in the crowd. Displays the ability to get the ball in the paint where he can finish or distribute the basketball when drawing an extra defender. The talented guard is effective as the ball handler in screening situations or in dribble handoffs, and is a comfortable spot-up shooter across the board in the mid-range areas of the floor. Eaglestaff is also a very effective three-point shooter both off the catch and when creating for himself off the dribble. Has the ability to create shots for himself, which was a need that the Mountaineers had when putting the roster together in its current format, and he will certainly be able to handle that. A strong passer, Eaglestaff demonstrates the ability to read the floor and make the right basketball play. He also is an effective weapon in the transition game, given his offensive skill set. West Virginia has landed a key addition to the roster build and one that generated plenty of interest from programs across the country, both when he initially entered and when he reopened his recruitment. This is exactly what the roster needed, a big guard that can create on his own and score at a high clip. But the question now becomes, how does production translate to the Big 12? It also gives the Mountaineers another lengthy option to put on the floor alongside Chance Moore. Eaglestaff gives the Mountaineers a major piece to the puzzle on how this roster will ultimately form. So good stuff there from Keenan Cummings over on Rivals, as he's done a great job highlighting a lot of these transfer additions for WVU. And then I had to pull up here some pictures from Treysen Eaglestaff on his visit. Jonathan K. Martin shared these. Here's some pictures of him in that 52 number, which he probably will wear at WVU. That was his number at South Dakota. And look at Coach Hodge there, smiling like the butcher's dog. Super excited to pick up Treysen Eaglestaff, as you can see there, which is a huge addition for the Mountaineers. So with that being said, let's pull up our transfer portal tracker here and take a look at our transfer in list. And then we'll talk a little bit about some of the other targets West Virginia is after here on the basketball side. But you can see Treysen Eaglestaff here is the 7th addition to the class now, joining Harlan Obioha, Brennan Lorient, Honor Huff, Jackson Fields, Jasper Floyd, and Chance Moore. Also, you have DJ Thomas coming in from the high school ranks as a recruit there, a freshman that'll join the roster. So Treysen Eaglestaff, in my opinion, the biggest addition here via the portal, which takes a lot for me to say because you guys know I raved about Honor Huff as well. But I think having both those guys together is insane, especially with some of the other length that you've added, some of the good rebounders and defenders that you've picked up with a lot of these other names. Just can't be understated how huge this is for West Virginia to get Treysen Eaglestaff. So there's a look at the transfer in, but we do have an update to the transfer out list as well, and then we'll talk about some of the other targets West Virginia is after. But let me pull this up here, courtesy of the portal report. This came out earlier today. Let's see here if I got it pulled up here. I think that I do. Thought that I did anyways. Yeah, here it is. West Virginia forward Harris Elezevich is entering the transfer portal. No surprise here. I think that we kind of saw this one coming. But the portal report putting it out here after he appeared in 14 games for the Mountaineers this past season. So let's take a look at our transfer out list. And Harris Elezevich's name now joins the others. Of course, DeVries gone to Indiana, Powell to UNC, Tenor to Murray State, Hansberry to VT, Sincere Harris to Cincinnati. And then you have the 3 most recent additions that have not announced a destination yet, those being Offrey Neve, Jaden Stone, and of course, Harris Elezevich that we just talked about. Now let's talk about the targets West Virginia still remains after in the portal, because we do have several updates to make here. Of course, one being Eaglestaff committing to WVU, the names in blue committed to Mountaineers, the names in red, previous targets that committed elsewhere. And some new ones there, Garrett Norman committed to Santa Clara. I think we talked about Duke Brennan committing to Villanova on the last update. We also had Makai Mason commit to Wake Forest. We talked about Wes Ennis. Tyrell Ward committed to VCU, and Parsifala, someone that we had on commitment watch because he did have a Zoom meeting with WVU, actually going to the Big 12, but he'll be playing for Oklahoma State. That was announced recently as well. So who's left as targets for West Virginia? Terrence Ginyard from UT Martin, Don McHenry from Western Kentucky, Devin Hayes from Central Connecticut, Grant Newell from North Texas, Ante Brezovic, if he can get another year of eligibility from Charleston. West Virginia has reached out to him. Kamani Hamilton from High Point, Jacob Darr from Rice, Jamel Jones from Cal State Bakersfield, Seydou Traore from Iowa, Marcus Millender from UTSA, Jacoby Coles from Grand Canyon, Miles Che from UC Irvine, Johan Traore from SMU, Adam Miller from Arizona State, Jordan Marsh from UNC Asheville, and the latest addition, Federico from Texas Tech, which we all may remember, committed to West Virginia initially, but ended up going to Pitt and then to Texas Tech. Now he's back in the portal, and according to reports, West Virginia has indeed reached out. So before we pull this back up and talk about who I have on commitment watch, let's highlight Federico's numbers as we have all these others contacts in the portal in the past. So Federico, which always cracks me up, man. Why would his parents, if they know their last name is Federico, why would they name him Federico for his first name? I'll never understand it, but hey, whatever. Federico, 6'11", 215, originally a native of Finland, so would be great size there to pair as another big man that you could have splitting time with Obi Oha. We know that's now a need West Virginia needs to bring in here in the portal. They've went out and got some backcourt pieces, but I think you need a reserve big man now. Federico would fit that mold. 5 points, 5 rebounds this past year, shot 74% from the field, great field goal percentage, but that's because all his field goal attempts are coming near the rim, coming in the post, a lot of putback attempts, decent on the defensive end as well with 1 block per game, half a steal per game to go along with his 5 points, 5 rebounds. Obviously not going to be someone that shoots the basketball, has a 3-point percentage is low, free throw percentage low, but he is kind of one of those glue guys, those gritty players. He's tough on the boards. That would help West Virginia. It would give them another rim protector, another big man with size, a near 7-footer. So would not be a bad addition here, and we'll keep an eye on Federico, as we will these other names on the contact list, which will pull up the transfer list on the basketball side one more time, and then we will get ready to talk some football updates here momentarily. But who out of these names is on commitment watch? You know, last update we did, we had Eaglestaff on commitment watch. Obviously, that worked out well. But I think you have to talk about Marcus Smurf Millender being on commitment watch because he is on campus, I think, today for a visit, I believe. You know, shout out to my guy, Mountaineer Paul, over at Locked On West Virginia. He was the first one I saw have the info about Millender coming on a visit. We've been talking about him being a target here for a couple of weeks now on the CRW on our live streams, but he is on commitment watch because of that visit. So we'll keep an eye on Marcus Smurf Millender, which will be another big addition. He put up nearly 20 points per game there at UTSA and would arguably be a starter there. It would just be interesting to see how West Virginia would work that out because he's also around 5'10", 5'11", like Honor Huff. And I don't think you want your 1 and your 2 to both be under 6 foot like that. And you put Eaglestaff at the 3, I think, you know, you would have to have either Millender or Huff come off the bench, which in my opinion, with what you paid Huff, I don't see him coming off the bench. So Millender might be the one to be a candidate to do that, but that would be a hell of a player to have come off the bench in Smurf Millender. So he is on commitment watch, not only because of the visit, but also because the guy, Joe Knows News, man, which if you guys have been following these updates here in the past on the CRW, we've been sharing his because he has a great track record. And he put hearing some news of someone trending to a certain school and tweeted out the Smurf GIF, which that is Marcus Millender's nickname. He's known as Smurf. So looking positive for WVU, and that's another reason we have him on commitment watch. But just so you guys know what I'm talking about with Joe Knows here, how accurate he's been with this stuff throughout the offseason. He predicted Eaglestaff to West Virginia back on the 17th, so 3 days before it happened, and his predictions here in the portal are 80-5. That's his record on his predictions that he's made, so he's in the know. He's plugged in for sure with this, so good to hear that he's hearing good things about potentially having Smurf Millender end up at WVU, and we are on commitment watch for that. So there's the transfer portal updates for the basketball side. We'll talk football here momentarily, but before we do have a couple of press releases to share. The signing of Jasper Floyd is now official, so we will pull up that one. And then we will talk a bit about Phil Forte, someone we've raved about in the past. He's now official as well, so we'll go through his press release also. So Jasper Floyd signed this weekend. West Virginia men's basketball coach Ross Hodge has announced the signing of Jasper Floyd, for a granted aid for the 25-26 season. Floyd, a 6'3", 195-pound senior guard from Tampa, Florida, comes to WVU from North Texas, where he played for Coach Hodge last season. And we get the comments here from Coach Hodge. Jasper has been a winner at every level of competition, Hodge said. He has an incredible intangibles and is a great leader. He makes others around him better on and off the floor. Started all 36 games last year at North Texas, where he averaged 9 points, 4 assists, 3 rebounds, and 1.3 steals per game with a 2 assists to turnover ratio, which is very good. He had team leads of 148 assists with 48 steals, while leading UNT in assists in 29 of their 36 games, and also played his best games there down the stretch. That's what we talked about when he initially committed to WVU, was he played really good in the postseason tournament. So saved his best there towards the end and seems to be kind of hitting his stride in his career right now, and would be a great assist guy to have on the floor with Honor Huff, with Treysen Eaglestaff, that could really, drive and kick to those guys, and I think be a great player on the defensive end, of course, as well. Floyd attended Hillsborough College. That's why he has the extra year there, is because he did play JUCO, averaged nearly 15.7 rebounds and 5 assists per game there at the JUCO level. In high school, he attended Wharton High School and led them to a 28-3 overall record and an undefeated 10-0 record in the district. So there's the press release for the Jasper Floyd signing. And then we also now have it official from the university about Phil Forte. So let's check out this press release as well. Then we will switch gears and talk some basketball transfer portal updates, as the Mountaineers landed a couple commits on that side as well. But Phil Forte, the main staff member, I was really wanting to come over from North Texas. Super excited about this guy. Of course, we all remember him from his playing days at Oklahoma State, but he's been a hell of a coach and a hell of a recruiter since he got into the coaching ranks. And this was officially announced this weekend as well. Ross Hodge has announced the hiring of Phil Forte as an assistant coach. Forte is a native of Flower Mound, Texas, spent the last 2 seasons as an assistant coach at North Texas, but has 8 seasons of D1 coaching experience already, which is crazy because it seems like just yesterday we were watching him play at Oklahoma State. But Coach Hodge's comments here: Phil is one of the best young coaches in the country. The work ethic and character that helped him be a great player in the Big 12 has carried into his coaching career. He has a great understanding of how to help our players to get better on and off the floor, and we were happy to have Phil and Madison in Morgantown. Of course, we know what North Texas did this past season, but Forte really developed multiple players there. He recruited some of the top performers and helped mentor guard Jason Edwards to first-team all-conference honors. Of course, Edwards then went on to Vanderbilt. UT won 46 games in Forte's 2 seasons there. Then we get Phil Forte's comments here. He says, I'm excited to get to work here in Morgantown. I am extremely fortunate to continue to work for a coach and person like Ross Hodge. West Virginia basketball is in great hands with him leading the program. Part of North Texas, Forte spent 2 seasons at St. Louis under Travis Ford, helped the Billikens to back-to-back 20-win seasons there while he was at St. Louis. Prior there, he was an assistant coach at Sam Houston under Jason Hooten, and they went 37-22 in his 2 seasons there. During his time as a coach, Forte has helped 10 different players to 13 all-conference honors, including 5 honorees this past season at North Texas, and 2021 Southland Conference Player of the Year Zach Nuttall at Sam Houston. So you look, Zach Nuttall at Sam Houston, Yuri Collins at St. Louis, Jason Edwards at North Texas. He's developed a ton of really good players throughout his coaching career already. I think he'll continue that trend with Honor Huff, with Treysen Eaglestaff here at WVU. Of course, you may remember him from his playing days at Oklahoma State from 2012 to 2017, where he was one of the Cowboys' most decorated guards in program history, leading them to 4 NCAA tournament appearances and setting a school record with 329 three-point field goals and scored nearly 1,800 career points, which ranks 6th in school history at the time of his graduation. Forte graduated from Marcus High School in 2012 and was a 2-time state champion. He was the MVP of the 2012 Texas Class 5A state tournament after scoring a game-high 24 points in the championship game and earned first-team All-State honors. So a great player that has become a great coach and is already proving to be a great recruiter with some of these portal players West Virginia has brought in that we just highlighted there on the basketball side of things. So with that being said, let's switch gears here, and for the back half of the show, we'll talk football portal updates, as the Mountaineers have brought in a wide receiver from North Carolina and a defensive lineman from Missouri. Two players that if you watch last stream, we had on commitment watch because we told you guys they were visiting and to watch out for them. So that comes to fruition. They do commit to the Mountaineers. So a couple of power conference commits to talk about here on the football side of things. And then we will take a look at the transfer contacts there. And we still have other guys that we have on commitment watch there. We'll talk about those as well. And hopefully they come true in the future like these did as well. So let me take a swig of my water, then we'll talk the football news. And before we wrap up, I will talk get to some of your all's comments there in the chat as well. All right, so let's switch gears here. Let's talk football because we do have some really good commitments here coming in there as well. Let's pull up these announcements. First, we'll talk a little bit about Christian Hamilton. And Pete Nakos put this out, of course, from On3. Put this out on social media. North Carolina wide receiver Christian Hamilton has committed to West Virginia. His agent tells On3. Former 4-star recruit posted 7 catches for 159 yards and a touchdown this past year, but has 3 years of eligibility remaining. So a lot of upside here. Someone that was extremely high rated coming out of high school. Didn't play a ton for UNC last season, but there you see some pictures from his visit to WVU and decides to commit to the Mountaineers. I definitely think, that getting Ashton Woods, a linebacker from UNC, probably helped us land Christian Hamilton as well. But we knew West Virginia wanted to get some wide receiver depth. Here's a good depth piece with really high upside potential that also has multiple years of eligibility remaining potentially as well. So good addition there with Christian Hamilton joining the offensive side of things. Let's talk a little bit more about him, courtesy of our guy Keenan Cummings over at Rivals and his Transfer 101 write-up on Christian Hamilton. Let's learn a little bit more about the latest receiver transfer to join the Mountaineers. 6 foot, 190 pounds, spent 2 seasons with North Carolina Tar Heels, where he was an early enrollee in the 2023 recruiting class and a former 4-star prospect. Entered the portal on April 16th and quickly made a visit to Morgantown this past weekend, which resulted into his commitment. During his time, he caught 10 passes for 179 yards and a touchdown at UNC. 3 years of eligibility remaining. Hamilton only appeared in 12 games during his time at UNC, including 4 starts, but was a former 4-star prospect out of high school. During his time there, he saw 248 snaps, the majority of those coming in his redshirt freshman season. Over his career, he was targeted 16 times, getting 10 catches, as we just talked about, but he displayed the ability to fight for the football, making 2 of 3 contested catch attempts and forced a pair of missed tackles in his 10 grabs as well. So maybe he'll be good after the catch also. Spent almost all of his snaps out wide, average depth of target of 13.1. West Virginia needed more depth and quality depth at that at the receiver spot. And with the addition of Hamilton, the program still only has 13 wide receivers on the roster. That number includes 3 true freshmen, meaning that Hamilton is going to have a chance to carve out a role in his first year. On top of that, with 3 years of eligibility remaining, Hamilton has a chance to not only be a factor in the room this year, but in the future as well. So there's a little bit on Christian Hamilton, the wide receiver that committed to WVU. But like we said, it was 2 commits in one day for the Mountaineers, 1 on each side of the football, the other being a player that we had on commitment watch on our previous stream, Eddie Kelly, a talented defensive lineman out of Missouri that I think, is going to fight for potential starting role. He's going to be in competition there. He's definitely going to be a player that receives a ton of playing time there on West Virginia's defensive front, a guy with great size, but has a knack for rushing the passer, has a knack for stuffing run holes as well. So I think that this is a good pickup for the Mountaineers, as you see here. His commitment that he announced to the Mountaineers, truly blessed and honored to announce that I'm committed to West Virginia University. Recruitment closed. And there you see his commitment graphic that he shared. So let's talk a little bit about his game here from the Transfer 101 from Keenan Cummings. Then we will pull up our transfer tracker where we've added their name to the transfer in list. And we can update the targets as well, as we do have a new name on the target list and some other guys I want to talk about that are on commitment watch. So a little bit about Eddie Kelly here from Keenan Cummings. Eddie Kelly, 6'4", 278 pounds. So great size there, both stature and frame wise. Committed to the Mountaineers after taking an official visit beginning April 18th. Of course, they extended an offer to him back on the 16th. He's a Florida native, selected the Mountaineers over scholarship offers from VT, Kansas, and more. West Virginia will be his 4th stop in 4 seasons as he went from South Florida to Georgia Tech to Missouri and now to WVU. At South Florida, he appeared in 11 games and had 19 tackles as a true freshman before he went to Georgia Tech in his sophomore season, where he had 36 tackles, but really busted onto the scene this past season at Missouri, where he played in all 13 of their games, 20 tackles, including 4.5 tackles for loss, which is an impressive number there for someone on the D line. Also added a sack. Of course, 1 year of eligibility left for Kelly, who is an experienced option on the defensive line. You're talking about someone that has 841 snaps there on the D line, coming off his best season where he graded out at a 76.1 overall grade according to PFF. Strong marks in run defense at nearly 77 and tackling nearly 77 as well. Coverage grade, funny enough, almost an 82, while also registering a solid mark as a pass rusher at nearly 67 there as far as PFF grades are concerned. A versatile piece on the defensive line last season, seeing time at both outside linebacker and on the D line for the Tigers. That's interesting that they even lined him up at outside backer on occasion. That will likely be his role at West Virginia as an edge defender that can put pressure on the quarterback from various spots. So probably more of a D end addition here than a D tackle addition potentially. We'll see how they decide to use him on West Virginia's defensive line and in their scheme. But he has generated 23 hurries over the course of his career and been a strong tackler with just 6 missed tackles across his college career. Also has a total of 4 sacks to his credit. Experienced pass rusher that can end up playing a number of spots as a versatile piece on the defense. As far as how he fits the program, an experienced D lineman that has had success in multiple stops over the course of his career. Florida native should immediately provide an upgrade to the room. And with 1 season of eligibility left, he would count on to step into a role immediately from the jump. Kelly joins a D-line room with a dozen other scholarship players, although he will also likely be used as a bandit, potentially, which you could definitely see that. West Virginia is thin at the bandit right now. They do have, a junior college guys coming in to help that position over the summer. But, right now you only have 2 guys there at the bandit spot. So I definitely could see him, maybe factoring in there as well and giving the Mountaineers a different body type there at that bandit spot. The Mountaineers targeted Kelly when he entered the portal and was able to secure his commitment, giving the Mountaineers an upgrade up front there on the D line. So good write-up there, and excited about both these transfers, Christian Hamilton and Eddie Kelly. So let's pull up our transfer portal tracker here and take a look at all of the names that West Virginia has on the list here thus far. And that is now up to 5. Of course, we've got videos out on all of these in the past. You can just check out our transfer updates playlist if you want to find out about each of them. But thus far, West Virginia has transfer commitments from offensive lineman Mikel Clay, tight end Grayson Barnes, cornerback Nick Taylor, wide receiver Christian Hamilton, and defensive lineman Eddie Kelly Jr. Those 2 last ones there being the 2 we just talked about. So that's what the transfer class looks like thus far for WVU football. But they also have plenty of guys that they're targeting, and a new name that we've added to that target list is none other than Keelan Marion, who you guys may remember because he is coming from BYU out of the portal. Good as a receiver and really good as a return man. I think he has 3 kick return touchdowns already in his career, and West Virginia did offer him a scholarship as he put this out on social media. So I had to add him to our transfer contact list on the football side, which let's pull that up here. And to wrap up what I have for you guys before I catch up with some of your all's comments, let's talk about some of the targets here. We can remove Eddie Kelly and Christian Hamilton as they are now on our transfer in list. But other than that, some players West Virginia is after. We've talked about all of these in the past. John Emery at the running back position, Jalen Knighton at the running back position, defensive back John Slaughter has an offer from WVU, linebacker Gary Bryant from South Dakota, linebacker Jason Hewlett from Michigan, linebacker Shea Taylor from Ohio, defensive lineman Cam Rice from Ohio, 4 different wide receivers here, Justin Smith-Brown, Trayshawn Hurry, Moody Rubin, who's supposed to be visiting WVU at some point in the future as well, Cam Abshire, and then the most recent addition, of course, Keelan Marion from BYU. So this isn't an extensive list. These are just the ones that I've been able to see that West Virginia has either offered a scholarship to or has reached out and gotten into some form of contact with. But on the previous update, we had Christian Hamilton on commit watch. We had Eddie Kelly on commitment watch, and both those guys have since committed. So who else should we be on commitment watch for? Well, I think I would put Shea Taylor on commitment watch as we had him on last stream because he was also on a visit over this weekend. But we have linebacker Gary Bryant coming in on a visit also. So he is now on commitment watch as well, the linebacker from South Dakota. So we'll put those two linebackers on a visit. And I'm going to keep Cam Rice on commitment watch because of his West Virginia ties. So for now, Shea Taylor, a linebacker out of Ohio, Gary Bryant, a linebacker out of South Dakota, and Cam Rice, a defensive lineman out of Ohio, are the three that I currently have on commitment watch here on the football side. But keep a watch on all these names here on our transfer contact list as we'll see what happens in the future. But those are the names that we have at this time. As more names are added to the list, we'll bring them to you in future updates as we continue to keep you updated on the portal, both on the WVU basketball side of things and on the WVU football side of things. But that was a long one, guys. Had a lot of info to get to there. So with that being said, I'm going to take a swig of my water, and then I'll catch up on some of your all's comments before we wrap this one up. But before I do that, just a reminder for you guys that are tuning in live on Facebook or Twitch, be sure to come over to the CRW YouTube channel, subscribe here so you can get access to our pre-recorded videos and podcast episodes. You can stay up to date on everything we cover there as well, in addition to these live streams. But we'll keep you up to date on the roster for both WVU basketball and WVU football, and of course the coaching staff as it forms on the basketball side as well. Anything going on for those sports, we'll keep you up to date on here on the CRW. And you guys that watch on YouTube, be sure to hit the thumbs up button, give us a like on the video. You can do that whether you're watching live or after the fact on a playback. But if you are on that playback and didn't get a chance to throw in your questions, comments here in the live chat, leave them in the comment section. Always appreciate those interactions as well. With that being said, I'm going to take a swig of my water. I'll catch up on your all's comments, then we will call it a show. All right. Mouth was a little dry for all that talking. Channel member H. Bar Farkle says, Paul had a fantastic interview with Trey's high school coach and close friend. Oh, awesome. I'll have to check that out over on Locked On West Virginia. Appreciate that. Paul does great work. You guys know he's a friend of mine, so I always like to plug his stuff. And pretty cool that he interviewed Treysen Eaglestaff's high school coach. So awesome stuff there. H. Bar Farkle, channel member, also says Eaglestaff dropped 40 on Alabama. I don't think we'll have any problem in the Big 12. Exactly. Can't rave enough about Treysen Eaglestaff. Like I said, and I'll say it again, it's probably like the fifth time I've said it, but let's hammer it home, right? This is the biggest addition West Virginia basketball has ever picked up in the transfer portal era, excluding Tucker DeVries, because we didn't really have to go out and recruit him. So 100% agree with that. I think he's going to do good in the Big 12. H. Bar Farkle, always appreciate you. Another channel member, Shaq here, says 53 people watching. Please like, share, and subscribe to the show and share some of our custom emojis there. Appreciate you, Shaq. Always doing a great job reminding people of those things in the comment. Yeah, those are easy things you can do to help us out that don't cost you anything. Hitting the thumbs up button, subscribing to the channel so you get these videos directly in your feed, and copy and pasting the link on your social media, sharing it out, spreading it out throughout Mountaineer Nation helps as well. Appreciate those updates there, Shaq, as well. Tosh Miller, another channel member, says a cook. Yeah, there's another one that's parents decided to give him the same first name as last name. Weird thing there, but hey, maybe, we had a cook on the roster in the past, so maybe it'll help us land Federico, seeing that we've had another player that had the same name as his first and last name. So we'll see how it plays out there. But yeah, good one to point out there, Tosh. I always appreciate you. Also, Ernie B says getting Eaglestaff was huge. Let's go Mountaineers. Exactly. And Buck Robinette says it made his day big time. Let's go, Mountaineers. Hey, Burdetta Millie, good to see you in here, man. I haven't seen you in a while. What's going on? Let's go, Mountaineers, indeed. Appreciate all you guys that tuned in and chimed in here live. Appreciate the super chat that Rodney sent in earlier as well. Always appreciate those interactions. And we appreciate them in the comment section as well. Just because you didn't get a chance to tune into this one live and chat with us, you can still talk to us in the comment section. I'll respond to those at the first chance I get. And those interactions help us grow the Country Roads webcast community throughout Mountaineer Nation. But with that being said, guys, that'll put a bow on this April 21st live stream here where we covered transfer portal updates for both sports. For those of you guys that may have came in late, hope you go back and catch the whole show on the playback there, rewind to the beginning if you would. But just as a recap, for some of you guys that came in late, we discussed Treysen Eaglestaff joining the transfer in list for West Virginia, probably the most impactful addition in this class, most impactful addition I think WVU's ever picked up in the portal. But him and Huff together is just incredible, and definitely quiets the naysayers as far as West Virginia not being able to get offensive players under a defensive-minded coach like Ross Hodge. That baby's put to bed now. So we covered that. We covered the contact list as we had some updates of players committing elsewhere and added a couple new names to that list, one being Fede Federico. Jordan Marsh is also on that list that we talked about in a previous stream from UNC Asheville. We have Marcus Smurf Millender on commitment watch on the basketball side of things. And then on the football side, of course, to wrap up basketball, we shared the press releases for the signings of the Jasper Floyd, who we hadn't covered previously. We'll continue to cover those press release signings as they come out. And of course, Phil Forte, who we've been raving about here on the CRW for about a month. He was officially announced as well. We covered his press release. And then on the football side, we covered the commitments of Christian Hamilton at the wide receiver position, coming from North Carolina. Eddie Kelly, the defensive lineman coming from Missouri, covered his commitment as well. And then updated the football contact list. And right now we have linebacker Shea Taylor on commitment watch and linebacker Gary Bryant on commitment watch as well. So watch out for those names in the future. And we'll continue to bring you guys transfer portal updates for both sports here on the CRW because, like I always like to say, man, NIL transfer portal era, what you hear fans say all the time is, man, I don't even know who's going to be on the team this year. Well, you follow here at the CRW, hit that subscribe button. Doesn't cost you anything. You get these videos right in your feed, and you'll know who's going to be on the roster every step of the way for both WVU basketball and WVU football. Appreciate you guys. As always, I'm off work tomorrow, so hopefully, we'll get at least one live stream out again tomorrow. Try and go every day throughout the weekdays here as much as possible, especially right now with all these transfer portal updates coming out for both sports. It's kind of vital to go every day, so be sure you're subscribed here so you can get notified when we go live. And in addition to that, I'll be putting out pre-recorded videos as well. So ton of content coming right now with transfer portal season, running simultaneously right now for both basketball and football, and we'll continue to have updates for both of those rosters. But having said that, I'm going to get out of here, guys. Go get me some food. Just got off from work and had to hop on here to talk about these transfer commitments that came in over the weekend. That's what happens when you take a couple of days off from live streams there for Easter weekend. But we packed it all in here, a little bit lengthy of a show, but we got it all in here for both sports. And we'll continue to bring you guys updates here pretty much daily on the Country Roads webcast. So keep it locked in with us here as this transfer portal craziness continues. And hopefully it continues to be positive news for the Mountaineers as it was here on this stream for both WVU basketball and WVU football. But having said that, I hope you guys have a great start to your week here on this Monday. Have a great rest of your Monday. I appreciate you guys as always being here in the live chat in the comment section. You guys are really doing a great job here helping us have this channel continue to grow. And that's all because of you guys here that support us. And we are so thankful for that support here on the Country Roads webcast. But having said that, as always, I'm Jordan Cruz. And until next time, let's go Mountaineers.